Now, chances are if you're watching this, you are into your homelab stuff. And if you're watching my channel or any of the other amazing channels out there, you would like to potentially try some of this stuff yourself. And today I wanted to show you how this is actually a possibility without having to buy any fancy servers, spare PCs, or anything like this. Now, I'll be doing this on my spare PC because it's a Windows PC, and most of you will have, as I said, the best operating system that's out there, and that is Windows 11, and possibly only have access to one PC max. Now, before we go any further, you do need a Windows 11 Pro license. Are you thinking about running Hyper-V or taking your Windows 11 project to the next level, but you're stuck with Windows 11 Home? This video is sponsored by KeysFan. They have exclusive deals to help you upgrade your Windows 11 Home to Windows 11 Pro and more. KeysFan are offering exclusive deals for activation keys for both Windows and Microsoft Office. KeysFans have genuine software keys, Windows 11, Office 2021, Office 2019, Office 365, and bundles with tools for both PC and Mac. If you're upgrading Windows 11 Home to Windows 11 Pro, use the code BLT50 to get an exclusive 50% off your Windows activation key. That means you can get a Windows 11 Pro license for only $14.99 and unlock all the features you need for Hyper-V. If you need Office as well, use the code BLT62 for 62% off all Microsoft Office products. See, to get the discount, the process is pretty simple. Add your chosen piece of software to cart. In my case, it's Windows 11 here. I click on View Cart, and then where it says Apply Discount Code, I type in BLT50. Apply discount code, and there we go. The price has now dropped to $14.99 for a genuine Windows 11 professional key. And you can pay securely with either PayPal or your credit card, and you'll be sent a genuine activation key instantly. Check out the description box for direct product links and more details. And once again, thank you to KeysFan for sponsoring this episode. Most of you would have seen some of my videos where I talk about Docker containers and how amazing Docker containers are, because essentially you can run some of these services that you see some of the people host on your own computer. Now, you don't need to be a whiz with Linux, anything like that. You literally just need to download Docker Desktop. And if you're good at Googling, you will pretty much find the very top result here. It's called Docker Desktop. You'll be able to go onto it here and then just download Docker Desktop. And that's basically it. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to do anything like that. Then go through the installation and you will be presented with something like this. We're going to see Docker Desktop here. We're going to see containers, images, volumes, Kubernetes, and builds. And all of it sounds very complicated, but it really isn't. For example, you wanted to host something like Uptime Kuma, which I absolutely love. It's a great monitoring tool. You would simply open your Docker Desktop app. You would click on here in the search window and type in Uptime Kuma, and it's already going to start populating it if you start searching for it. So there we go. We can see Uptime Kuma here. It tells you how many downloads and so on. And I'm just going to click a run on this one here. It's going to ask me for my settings and my container name. So I'm going to call it Uptime Kuma-demo. And because I've already got something running on port 3001, I'm going to type in 3002. Volumes, I wouldn't worry about that just now, for now, just yet. I would literally just set it up to play around with it and then click a run. Give it a second. You can see it's starting to download it. And if we go back into containers, we can see Uptime Kuma demo is running. And if I click on it, there we go. We can go ahead and set up. So I'm just going to set up a username and password just for demo purposes. Passwords don't match, like so. And there we are. We can start monitoring our services. So I could, for example, ping the internet, and I could set up ping internet to check whether the internet is down. And I can ping Google servers, for example, like so. And there we go. And I can just hit save. And this should now start pinging. There we go. We can see that the internet is live. And you can go obviously a little bit further, but this video is not about showing you how to use Uptime Kuma. But the thing is, this is only half the story, because as cool as it is being able to run all of these containers on your desktop, you might want to do more. And this is where this next bit comes in, which is called Hyper-V. Now, Hyper-V is essentially a way for you to run virtual machines on your Windows PC. So kind of like if you see my videos about Proxmox, you can essentially do the same, but you have a nice graphical user interface. Now, keep in mind that not all the features will work. So for example, Hyper-V is absolutely terrible at being able to do GPU pass-through, for example. I don't think it actually exists. You can actually do it. So you're going to have to run Proxmox if it is something that you're interested in and you want to kind of do a bit more experimentation. But to run some basic virtual machines, it is absolutely incredible. And some of you might be wondering, what's the difference between Hyper-V and something like VirtualBox? Hyper-V actually allocates a chunk of your CPU and your resources, like your RAM and your disk, to that VM. Whereas with VirtualBox, it kind of runs on top of the operating system. So it's not actually allocating a chunk of it. It just uses it as if it was a normal program like Steam or, Adobe Premiere Pro or anything like that. Now, a couple of the things before we get started with Hyper-V is you're going to have to enable it. So you're going to have to click on the Start menu and type in Optional Features, like so. Then you're going to get presented with this screen here. You're going to want to click More Windows Features, and then you want to scroll down where it says Hyper-V here. And then you have to tick the box here. It will tick all the other ones here, and then you click OK, and you'll go ahead and install it. Like I've already gone ahead and installed it just to speed up the video here. Then once you're in Hyper-V, there are a couple of things that we're going to have to change. Some of them will be settings. And the first one is we need to create what's called a virtual switch. We need to create a virtual, imagine a physical switch where you plug Ethernet cables in. This kind of mimics that. That's kind of the idea behind it. And here's where you want to create an external switch. You want to create it. I'm just going to call it internet. That way I know that this is internet access, not internal. You select your network. So if you've got multiple network cards, you would select the one you want to use because you can segregate things out. So you can have separate VLANs, for example, for all of them and so on. Not going to get into that, but you can see here, you can, for example, add VLANs, and I'm going to leave everything as is, but I'm just going to say this is to access the internet like so. And then I'm going to hit apply. It will lose connectivity for a split second just because it's separating the switch out like so. And then we're going to click OK. Now we have a virtual switch configured. The other thing I recommend is where you click on Hyper-V settings here, select where you want your virtual machines to go and where you want your virtual disks to go. So I've got a spare disk. If you don't have one, obviously don't worry about it, but I'm going to call this VM stuff just to keep it simple. Select it, and then my virtual hard disks go in here, and so do my virtual machines. I'm going to go back to this PC. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go call it VMs like so. And now I know that on my C drive is where my main operating system is, and all the kind of programs that I need, and all the fun stuff goes onto the D drive. So we're going to hit OK here. And you're obviously also going to need to download any ISOs you want to play around with. So you might want to try NixOS because that's quite a popular and super cool distro. Now, I have actually a full video down below if you're interested in finding out more about NixOS, but I think it's super, super cool. Now, I've already gone ahead and downloaded them just again to speed up these videos. So let's now create a virtual machine. Where it says new, you're going to click it. You're going to click virtual machine, and then it's just going to give you the usual nonsense you have to read. Now here, we're going to call it Ubuntu. Now here it asks me where I want to store it, but I'm going to leave it as is. This is why we've pre-configured it. Now here is where we want to select that generation 2, because that is essentially where it gets the resources allocated to that virtual machine. So however much RAM you give it, that's how much it's going to take away from your system and give it to that virtual machine. So if you haven't got a big system with loads of memory, obviously be mindful. I've got 32 gigs, so I've got plenty, so I could give it 8, 16 gigs, something like that, without impacting my performance. Now I'm going to click next. Now I'm going to give it 8 gig of RAM because that's fine. And I'm going to keep it at use dynamic memory. I'm going to click next. Now here is where we configure that switch. And this is the internet switch I've configured. Here is where you give it the hard disk size. So I'm going to give it 128 gig because that's absolutely fine. We're going to go next. Now here's where you select the ISO you've just downloaded, and I am going to go into my download, and I think I have Ubuntu here. There we go. There's Ubuntu 2510. It's the newest one because I want to play around with it, because that is going to be the installation media. That's where the system's going to get installed from. And then here just gives you everything, and we're going to click finish. Now we are not quite ready yet to run this Ubuntu VM here. We need to do a couple of things. We need to click on settings, then we need to click on security, and we need to disable secure boot. Then we're going to go on to processors. And here is, you can leave it up to 14 cores, but we don't need that much. 8 is going to be just fine for us. Here's where you can play around with a RAM, so you can kind of give it a bit more if you've kind of messed it up or whatever. Integration services, we want to enable guest services because that way the VM can talk to our host system or to our Windows 11 machine a lot better. On the checkpoints, I honestly don't need them enabled because that just does backups. But for me, I'm really not that bothered about stuff. And then automatic stop action here is where I normally leave it on save the virtual machine state, because if you shut it down, you have to then restart it every single time, whereas that way it saves it and it might take a second to resume. So it's almost like you hibernate the VM. And then we're going to click apply, click OK, and now we are ready to connect to it. We're going to get presented with this screen here, and then we're going to hit start, and we should hopefully get presented with the installer. So just give it a second, let the VM load. And the good thing is, whilst this is starting, I could go ahead and technically create a brand new VM, call it NixOS, something like this, click next, generation 2, do all the usual stuff. Again, give it 8 gig of RAM, give it my internet switch like so, click next, leave everything as is here. And if you take a look now, we are essentially running 2 VMs side by side on our home device here. So you can see I'm running the installer on NixOS, but But also, if I go into my Ubuntu VM here, I can go ahead and just install it as normal. And this hopefully shows you how easy it is to be able to run all of this stuff on your home PC without having to go out and spend a fortune on another PC, without having to run something like a virtual private server. But stay tuned, because I have a super cool video coming up where I'll show you exactly that, where we go over setting up a virtual private server, because that's something that I'm really, really enjoying at this moment in time. I have my own virtual private server. It has a dedicated static IP, and it runs all my main services such as N8N, OpenWebUI, Uptime Kuma, and it monitors everything from a completely remote connection. And the only way to access it is through Tailscale. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But for now, let me know what you think of this. Is this something you're going to attempt? Because I think this is super, super cool. And I genuinely think you should have a little play with this, because I honestly absolutely love the fact that you can just run all of this on your own PC on Windows without having to, as I said, needing a separate PC and spending unnecessary amounts of money.